Good morning. My name is Abigail Bottome, and I'm a member of the Worship and Music Committee. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Thank you. If you are a visitor or new to First Parish, welcome. Please reach out to one of the greeters or to any of us if you have questions. The service will be posted on our Facebook page and on YouTube. Masking is once again optional, but we reserve the last 3 rows on the right side of the chapel back there for people who want to mask. We welcome you to join us after the service for coffee and treats. If you would like to help with coffee after a Sunday service, please talk with Julia Thomas, who must be out doing the coffee still. Welcome to our service at First Parish, Plymouth. Our service today is led by our minister, Reverend Arthur Lavoie. The sermon is titled Thali. Our technical services are provided by Lydia Robertson. Today's live music will be performed by Sandy Hammond. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever you believe, wherever you are on your journey, let us walk together this hour.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Arthur Lavoie. I am proud to be the minister here at First Parish in Plymouth. I want to welcome everybody and especially extend a welcome to anyone who is watching online, on YouTube, on the public access stations, on Facebook. We are delighted to have you part of the First Parish community this morning. There was a leadership retreat over the weekend, and so coffee hour is going to have sandwich fixings. Coffee hour is going to be like lunch today. So please stick around and we can enjoy each other's company. Thank you.
Our call to worship this morning is A Spacious Welcome by Shari Woodbury. Welcome who come in friendship, who long for genuine community.
May you be graciously received here as your authentic self.
Welcome who come in curiosity, full of questions, or simply open.
May you embrace wonder and encounter new delights.
Welcome who come heavy with fatigue, weary from the troubles of the world or the troubles of your particular life.
May you rest and be filled in this sacred space.
Welcome who come with joy, but for flowing rivers and gentle breeze, for changing skies and great trees.
May the grace of the world leave a lasting imprint in you.
Welcome who come with thanks for the altruism of the earth and the gift of human care.
May your grateful heart overflow and bless those around you.
Come, let us celebrate together this wondrous life.
Our opening hymn is number 1017 in the Teal hymnal, Building a New Way. please remain standing. I'd like to invite our chalice lighter to come up. If you could. And join with me in the chalice lighting words. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, to speak the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated. I don't know how many of you might have heard of Little Amal. So Little Amal, as you can see, is a puppet. And she represents a Syrian refugee, a 10-year-old Syrian refugee who is looking for her mother. She and her mother got separated during when they were trying to escape Syria. And so she is traveling the world. She's been in 15 countries. She was in Boston last week or the week before, and she's traveling across the US. And the plight, to kind of talk about the plight of refugees and refugee children, to raise money for refugees. And as we know in our country, there are many refugees, many refugee children who were separated from their families by our government down at the Mexican border. So there may be children here who are still looking for their parents or whatever loved one they came with. So as we enter into the spirit of what it might mean to be more welcoming this month, understanding or trying to have some compassion for all the refugees, especially the refugee children that are coming here and all over the world from lots of different places where there is political strife, where there are threats of death. But little Amal is right now making her way across the US to talk about refugee kids. Thank you. We will sing, Deb and the kids are going to be leaving, and we're going to sing them out.
This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Our reading this morning is by Reverend Abi Janamanchi. Thank you. He spoke these words at the closing worship of the General Assembly in 2009. For most of my life, I have inhabited two worlds, like a human hyphen in that final frontier of faith. Growing up in India, I felt like a social outcast, a cultural hyphen, a religious hybrid, an only child of a short-lived marriage between a lowercase Muslim father and an uppercase Hindu mother. So it was for me, being raised by my mother and the maternal grandfather who became my surrogate father, learning a language and culture different from my own, being less affluent than my schoolmates, and yet having the audacity to fall in love with and marry a girl from a respectable Hindu family. Despite my best efforts to blend in, I felt isolated from a society that seemed hostile to the values I held dear. After my beloved and I married, we felt drawn to the Brahmo Samaj, a Unitarian Hindu religion. That association led me to the International Congress of the International Association for Religious Freedom in Bangalore, where I met, among other Unitarian Universalists, Spencer Lavoie, the Dean of Meadville Lombard Theological School in Chicago. Spencer saw something in me that I had not seen in myself and encouraged me to study for the ministry. I took a leap of faith, leaving behind for a time my wife and infant son and my native land. In the U.S., I felt like a visitor from outer space. I did not know where I fit as a Hindu, Muslim, Indian with a physics degree and a banking career, studying to be a minister in an unfamiliar faith. I did not really belong in the local Indian community either, as my calling put me at odds with all the doctors, engineers, IT professionals, and motel owners. My vocation is still a conversation stopper each time I am asked by a fellow Indian, "So what do you do for a living?"
Thank you.
Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, Vedashuva,
Thank you, Sandy. Isn't it a joy how creative we got to be during the lockdown? And that we have this whole catalog of beautiful music that Sandy and others have created for us that we can still use once in a while. And this week, and we honor Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the most holy day in the Jewish calendar. And a little more about that later. So, what do you do for a living? That question and its answer is a conversation stopper for the Reverend Abigail when he meets other people from India. But perhaps in the larger American culture, the questions that most often halt people in their tracks might be, who are you and where do you come from? In the United States, we seem to be rather obsessed with knowing where people are from and what their background is. But I often wonder what's behind that question. Is our reasoning related to a desire to learn about other people and cultures in order to know people better and be more welcoming and inclusive? For those of us who are Caucasian, well, first of all, we never get asked that question, and we seem so immersed in our white culture that we rarely ask these questions of people who share our skin color. Perhaps we want to judge whether or not other people fit into our preconceived notion of what a real American should look like and should be like. We tend to ask those questions so that we can put people in a box, I think, or rationalize our prejudice against them and all others who are different from us. In another sermon, I think I might have told you about Mark Watanabe, my former husband, who is Japanese American. Both sides of his family have lived in the United States longer than both sides of mine. He would often get asked where he's from. And I never get asked that question. Yet, if time in the US is the measure, he's more of an American than I am. One of the great tensions, I think, in American society today is the tension that exists within each of us and in our society at large about individuality and sameness, freedom versus conformity. The struggle exists within us as the different parts of our own identity vie for voice. We often fail to see that we, in our own way, could be the stranger that we project onto another. What we fail to remember is that most groups of immigrants, for at least the last couple hundred years, have felt excluded, have experienced prejudice, have had a difficult time making their way here. And that, I bet that includes almost everyone in this chapel this morning or our ancestors. And I don't think the prejudice ended when we or they became American enough, whatever that means. I think the shift occurs when those who are already here become more comfortable, more accepting of the very differences that other people bring to the table. Is it our own insecurity about acceptance that makes us project that lack of acceptance onto others? The American landscape has changed and has been affected by all of the wonderful and diverse people who now claim this as their home. We don't seem to think it unusual or strange to see restaurants and shops that represent the food and heritage of other countries. I pray for the day when we no longer think it unusual or strange to see people who look different from us, when we can welcome and accept them as part of the great fabric that we claim as one of the hallmarks of this great land. In the summer of 1996, I moved to Berkeley, California to attend seminary. Those years I lived on the West Coast were a life-altering experience for me. One of the things that I became aware of, especially when I was in Berkeley, was that it was less easy to recognize many people's nationality and racial and ethnic background just by looking at them. Many more people who live in that part of California have had their own experience of the kind of hyphenated life that Abigail talks about in this morning's reading. They are the product of racial, ethnic, and cultural mixes that I had not been familiar with growing up in a mostly Caucasian Western Massachusetts suburb. In Berkeley and in the San Francisco Bay Area, I learned to feel more comfortable with not knowing, not being able to quickly pigeonhole other people. I learned to be more accepting. I took the time to seriously confront some of my own prejudices and preconceived ideas about people, the stranger within me also, if you will. The year I lived in Oakland, I was a clear minority as a Caucasian person. Oakland, especially at that time, was a 90% African American community. That was a strange twist in my consciousness, to be the only white person on the bus going from Oakland to Berkeley. It was sometimes hard and awkward. It felt like some kind of final frontier where I had to step out of my own comfort zone. For me, anyway, it seemed to be like somewhere on the edge of American society. And the results, I think, have been wonderful. I love who I have become from that experience. I love the lack of fear and anxiety or confusion I now feel when I encounter someone or something that is outside of what I had previously known. I don't feel the inclination to pigeonhole people, and that's an incredibly freeing experience, being able to encounter people for who they are without being saddled with some notion or expectation I might have had about them. Surely I still carry some prejudices because they have become deeply ingrained in my psyche. But I now have the experience and the comfort to put them aside when I recognize them. It is, for all of us, recognizing them that can be the bigger challenge. What I do bring to any conversation, and what I hope you all share with me, is a curiosity about how other people understand the meaning of their lives. All people, not just people who seem different. How they worship the holy in and around them. How they wrestle with the larger questions of living and dying. That curiosity fills me with wonder and awe. What I do bring and what I hope you share is an openness to the ways that I and we can learn and grow more deeply in our own faith from our encounter of and experience with the values and ideals that we all hold as sacred, regardless of where we come from or how we express those values. We know that religion does not exist in a vacuum. Different religious traditions emerge and develop as they respond to cultural pressures, to what's going on in the world around them. Religion then also influences the culture in which it exists. Our Unitarian and Universalist roots offer us a cautious tale, one that lifts the individual worth and voice of people we claim as part of our tribe, and one of a higher society class that directly benefited from the slave trade and the oppression of Native Indian peoples. Both of those within our tradition are true. The teachings of the Enlightenment, which lifted up the capacity of ordinary human beings to think and reason for themselves, had a profound impact on our understanding of religion. We must continue to see that, but not only in the people who are like us. That dialogue, that relationship between religion and different aspects of our culture needs to continue as we evolve. When that dialogue does not happen, religion devolves into superstition, and people go looking elsewhere for the ways that will give deeper meaning to their lives. What we want to create for ourselves is not a melting pot. We don't want our life experience to be just the sum of or an enmeshment of all peoples and differences. What we are looking for can be most clearly described as a thali. If you look at the cover of your order of service, that's a thali. Abhijanamanchi describes a thali as a South Indian selection of tasty dishes in different bowls presented on a single plate. Each dish tastes different, he writes, and does not necessarily mix with the next. But they belong together on the same plate because they complement each other in making the meal a satisfying repast. The spiritual, religious, and cultural table that we feast at, the spiritual, religious, and cultural resources that we learn from and bring into our lives, create a satisfying and meaning-filled repast for us as well. But more importantly, the people that we encounter on our journey have much to teach us about life and its meaning in this rich cultural mix that our global village has become. Part of that rich cultural mix is our connection to Judaism as one of the faith traditions that we honor. And this weekend we honor with our Jewish neighbors and friends the most holy of times in the Jewish calendar. The Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, where we are told that God opens the book of life over the course of this last week and gives us all the opportunity to look at our life, especially over the last year, to make amends for where we have failed, especially to the people that we have hurt. And then on Yom Kippur, the book of life is closed for another year. May we all take a moment this weekend to look at our lives, ways that we have been welcoming and not, ways that we might have hurt other people, and how we might want to move forward into the future. From the Reverend John Amachi once more. We are called to create holy communities where strangers are not only welcome, but where all are enjoined to do the work of healing and transformation by wrestling with the strangers within themselves. Yes, I agree. We're all called to healing and transformation. We are called to wrestle with the strangers within. We are called to create the banquet that welcomes and includes all who share the life of our communities. May our exploration be thoughtful and our discovery bring us to new levels of meaning and hope for who we can be as a people together. And may we always welcome each other with an open heart. Amen. And blessed be. I invite you to join me in singing our closing hymn. It sounds along the ages, number 187 in your gray hymnal. The words will also be on screen. Please rise. We are all dishes on this tali that we join, as we join with others in creating a deep and meaningful spiritual life and spiritual repast. The flavors might not always work well together, as we know, but the ways that we come together show that each and every one of us is needed, each and every one of our neighbors is needed as part of this holy banquet. May we take that forward as we go forth today. Amen and blessed be. Please be seated for the postlude. This weekend, the leadership of this congregation and other people who are helping us move forward, people who are not yet leaders but are about to be probably, who have great interest in the next steps of what we're doing together.
We've got to tell you that.
We had a retreat this weekend. The parish committee began together Friday night, and then several people joined us for a session Saturday morning. And it was exciting. It was invigorating as we talked about some of the plans for this year and into the future. Your connection, all of you, to this congregation and to its mission is glorious to behold. I can never thank you enough for the commitment of time and energy that I saw this weekend and in lots of other venues and times when we're together. And part of that commitment, of course, is your financial offering, which is so needed to keep us going. And so your financial offering for the work and mission and ministry and joy of this wonderful place will now be gratefully received. They pull you in right away, don't they? Please rise. Thank you so much. Please be seated. An important part of our time together is this time where we share the joys and sorrows and life changes. So many of you today over this week have seen in the e-blast or in special emails that Sandy will be leaving us as of December 1st as our music director. And it is with great sorrow that we say goodbye to you and wish you well on your journey, but also knowing that your journey is taking you into remarkable things and places. Your internship at Mass Ioneer, your continued academic program at Leslie, it is, right, in music therapy, and it makes so much sense for what you are doing, and yet we are very sorry that you have to leave us in that process. So I light this first candle in joy for the 7 years that you have given to this congregation as of mid-October sometime, and we will celebrate her together sometime in November, and we'll talk about that moving forward. So thank you so much, Sandy. If other people have candles they would like to share, please come forward. And then one final candle for all of the joys and sorrows that remain in our hearts this morning. Let us pray. I'm chuckling because I'm looking at daffodils on the screen here and saying, oh yeah, let's skip winter and go right back to spring. That's the thought that crossed my mind as the days are getting shorter and I wake up in the morning and it's still kind of dark outside and I go, ugh. Which is a moment that happens for all of us, whether it is the light of day or lack thereof, or moments in our lives where we wake up and go, ugh, do I really have to face what's coming today? And we do have to face what's coming today. And yet, in this gathering, in this community of faith, we hopefully learn that we do not have to face those things alone. That the time we share with each other, the time we laugh together, can also become a time we cry together. That there's a tremendous amount of caring in this community. And let us always remember that we can share our joys and especially our sorrows and burdens with each other, and that we don't have to walk this path alone. Let us pause for a moment of our own prayer and reflection. So we're doing a little bit of a change up I know in your order of service it says that Spirit of Life will be our song of inspiration, but instead we are going to all sing Hashivenu together, which Sandy did as the musical reflection. It's number 216 in your hymnal.
So we don't have to do it in a round. We'll do it once. And that's where it starts. So you might want to look at, oh, good, we have the lyrics. Okay. I'm just going to start.
And thank
We'll do
you,
it a
Lydia,
cappella.
for typing that out so quickly this morning, that change and the new lyrics.
Hashivenu, Hashivenu.